is the Pegasus Podcast, presented by Night Sports Now. UCF news, views, and a few hot takes. Now, here are your hosts, Bailey Go Knights Adams and Christian Charge On Simmons.
Welcome into episode 238. Be sure you're following us on Twitter at BaileyJAdams22, at ByCASimmons, at Night Sports Now, and at Pegasus Podcast. You can also email us at PegasusPodcast@ksn@gmail.com. UCF won a game.
They did.
What is it, Kevin Malone from The Office? It just feels nice to win one. Because that's what it feels like. It's like UCF won a game for the first time since September 14th. It's November 2nd, by the way. But the space game magic continues. They're 8-0 in space games. They beat Arizona 56-12. How are you feeling?
I can't even remember what my life was like last time UCF won a game. And I'm not even fully joking. Also, really quickly, just for the YouTube audience, yes, Bailey's here. So we are once again just in my living room. We have not figured out a better way to do this. We're not I don't know. We figured it out. We're not quite as last time. It looked like we were trying to merge and becoming one person. And this time it does feel like we're separate entities. So that's an improvement. But I feel it's so stupid because nothing has changed. The season is still a train wreck.
Yeah.
I still have massive doubts about the future of this coaching staff, but something about watching UCF win just weirdly placates me. I feel like it's like being given morphine or something. I'm just they won. Just feel better than I always forget. And I think I said this exact thing after the losing streak last year. The last 5-game losing streak was how I forget how I feel like I hide how actually bad I feel during the losing streak. And then once it's over, I'm like, no, right. I've been miserable as a person for a month and a half. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling happy.
Yeah, it does feel good. It just, again, it doesn't change anything. And I said that, I think this might have been the Iowa State game. Before that, I was like, even if they win this game, it's not going to change anything for me because It's just, I don't really feel like anything is different about the future of this program. And it definitely is not the case now when that Arizona team is not good.
Very bad team. And I feel like everyone's talking about, wow, Gus gave up play calling and they got rid of Roof and that's what changed. Yes. And I think those both had positive results that we saw play out. You cannot ignore that they have been playing nothing but very good teams and they just played a really bad team.
Yeah. And I think that's even more so the case on defense with Addison Williams being promoted back to defensive coordinator and Ted Roof being gone, because we talked about it on our preview episode. Arizona has been struggling to score points like crazy. It continued tonight. They scored 12 points. I think they ran for 8 yards, something like that.
Yes. They had 1 yard at one point in the third quarter.
Even Teteroa McMillan, the guy who he's going to take over the entire game. He has the capability of doing that. He had a decent game. He went 6 catches, 84 yards, and a touchdown. But it was almost one of those things. It was so eerily similar early on to that Oklahoma State space game last year.
Yeah. When the rain comes pouring in.
UCF scores, the rain comes pouring in. As soon as the rain starts, Arizona fumbles, and UCF gets the ball and ends up scoring another touchdown. Before you knew it, it was 28-0. Yeah. And it was this is just last year.
Literally, it's not even like it was, UCF built lead over time. That game stopped being close midway through the first quarter. Yeah. It was just literally midway through the first quarter, I'm like, UCF's going to win another space game like that.
And then, even so, it was 28-0. And when you were kind of they scored, made it 28-6 because they missed the extra point somehow.
Right.
You're kind of wow, Arizona gets the ball out of halftime.
Which I wasn't saying that I think that it's going to turn. I was just giving a heads up of hey, we're probably not headed for blowout quite yet.
Yeah, because it was if they score out of halftime, it's a 2-possession game with a whole half to go.
It's suddenly 28-13. Yeah. That's not a game that you can just take your foot off the pedal.
But then Dylan. I was going to say Dylan Rizk started the game. I didn't even say that yet.
If you're listening to this, Dylan Rizk started the game. We don't have to announce that. We'll get to him in a second. There's lots to say.
Dylan Rizk unloads 52 or 48 yards? I know it was something around there. From the 50-yard line, unloads a Hail Mary to Randy Pittman that he catches. And one of the more, I think it's one of the stronger reactions I've seen out of the crowd in a long time.
Dylan Rizk said in postgame that he didn't even see Randy catch it. He just chucked it down there, and then the crowd went crazy, and he just thought, I guess he caught it.
Which is funny, because I saw a replay of him after that, and he runs off, and I don't know, I guess he wasn't flagged, but he's running around on the field. He takes off his helmet, and I'm like, he shouldn't have done that. But he was stunned. Man. He was running around, and I was like, this is incredible coming off of the heels of we just saw it in the NFL last week. It was the Bears Commanders game. It's seeing it in person with my own eyes was crazy. Yeah. Oh, actually, no, I didn't see the replay. I was coming up the stairs as it happened, and everybody freaked out. And I looked and I see Randy with the ball, And I was like, that was a Hail Mary. So I see him with the ball, and I look up at the scoreboard and see zeros on the clock, and I was like, oh, that was a Hail Mary. And then we saw the replay, and it was incredible.
What I think is extra funny is there are fantastic quarterbacks who are very talented who go through their entire careers and never ever throw a Hail Mary. And Dylan Rizk started one game and was like, sounds good, let's do it. And because my idiot brain in the press box literally said when because they had 4 seconds left on the clock, I believe, there at midfield. And I said, just give it to Harvey and run it out. Like, let's not risk anything.
I'm surprised they didn't just kneel it.
And they were like, or touchdown.
Yeah.
I just can't believe that. But I guess we should talk about future FCS quarterback, as I called him last week, Dylan Rizk. Can I, before we give any analysis, just explain myself?
You must.
Okay. So if you listened to last week's post-game podcast, well, if you didn't, I just added myself. But if you did listen to last week's post-game podcast, you would have heard me say that the fan base was being a little ridiculous when Rizk came in garbage time and had a few good throws and said, yeah, he's our guy. And I said that he'll be really good at whatever FCS school he transfers to. And those comments, in light of recent events, those comments have not aged well. And I want to say a couple things in my defense. The first is that I never claimed to be smart. And if you thought I was, that was your decision to think that. In fact, I've called myself dumb repeatedly. Second, listen, let's just cards on the table. We hear stuff. We hear stuff. We're pretty upfront about that. Going back all the way to spring, what I'd heard about Dylan Rizk was that he wasn't good, that he was not in the same tier as the other quarterbacks on the roster. What I heard repeatedly was that, yeah, KJ's the guy. Jakari, I would have called him Jakari at the time. Jakari has some potential. EJ's young and raw, but has potential too. And the rest of the room's just not worth talking about. So I probably let that color what I was thinking when I saw him on the field. I probably went in with those lenses. And so what I would say is, don't blame me. I didn't watch practice. Blame the people who did. Blame the staff. Blame them, not me. I'm innocent in this. He looked very, very good tonight. And I kept waiting for him to stop looking good, because with each drive, I was like, there's no way the redshirt freshman who's never started a game is just going to keep looking this calm, this collected, and this deadly.
That and the fact
he just kept doing it.
There's no way the guy who was tabbed as the fourth string quarterback could continue to look this good. And then, of course, as the game went on, everyone was like, all right, why was he the fourth string quarterback? Why are we doing this? And he just looked composed. And
yeah,
for
composed
me,
is a great word for it.
Early on, and I mentioned this to you as we were on our way back from the game, like, it wasn't even to me like early on in the game, I wasn't like, wow, he's really good. It was, they have a bit of a passing game with him. Yeah. He can throw the ball. And that's what I had said last week, where I was like, he can throw the ball better than the other quarterbacks. I don't know how great he is, but he can throw the ball better than the other quarterbacks, and that can help the offense. And I think we saw that. And then he did make some plays, some throws where I'm like, wow, he actually might be good.
He was improving through the game. The first half, I was exactly with you. I said, I don't think he's elite. I don't think he's UCF's long-term answer at quarterback. He's just, for this team and the other weapons, he's allowing the other weapons on offense to be weapons. He's finding Kobe. He's finding Jacoby. We're watching RJ Harvey for the first time literally since like the early games of the season pick up 5 yards before contact, which all season he's had to fight because everyone's just keyed in on the run. And Arizona actually had to spread the field out, actually had to be ready for throws for a guy who's going through progressions to find the open man, and how that made Harvey's job so much easier. I mean, he looked like a different player tonight and had a big game. But I do want to say something in defense of the staff very quickly. You talked about how was he the fourth string quarterback, and I agree that that's in hindsight hilarious, because I think it's pretty hard to have the best quarterback in your roster be the fourth string guy. But the quarterbacks are just hard to frickin' evaluate, even when you have them on your roster. I know we've talked ad nauseum at this point about Mackenzie Milton never looked good in practice, and going into 2017, Frost staff didn't really know if they had anything with him, but he felt like the best guy, so they were going to try him out. TCU, the year they went to the national championship game, Max Duggan wasn't their starter, and it wasn't even a contentious, he lost a battle. It was like, well, yeah, no, it's not going to be Duggan. And then he ended up being a Heisman finalist. So it's just hard. You just don't always know until you get them out there in a game. And we unfortunately, because of the way the season played out, went through a full month of UCF having open tryouts in game for their quarterbacks. And when they finally got down to Rizk, they were like, okay, yeah, I guess he's good. And that played out tonight. And I don't want to completely burst the Rizk bubble, but the other thing I do want to say is that Arizona had no tape on him. And I think it's easy when a team knows nothing about your tendencies or how you play to thrive early. But that being said, when he starts making plays like the Hail Mary, when he starts making plays like that absolute rainbow of a throw to Jacoby Jones for a touchdown, which was like a Dylan Gabriel, Mackenzie Milton-esque throw, that's where you start going, okay, I think they legitimately do have something to work with here. Yeah. And that's where, and I understand that we just had, we just did this with Jakari of, I think they have something here and we're kind of doing it again. But this feels more sustainable in a lot of ways.
Well, it does, because I never liked Jakari that much. I liked that he could run.
Right.
I never saw any kind of flashes that he could throw. And this has been my stance, I think, for 3 years now. Is like, can we just have a quarterback who is actually who's a quarterback, who's a pass first guy? And we saw Rizk. He was able to run when he had to tonight. He ran 9 times for 55 yards. He had a 33-yard run in the middle of there. He went 20 of 25 for 294 yards and 3 touchdowns. And I think, like, you're right. Like, it is hard to evaluate quarterbacks, but I think, and again, I mean, this is going to be a more of another Gus thing against Gus from me, but it's like, it's even harder to evaluate quarterbacks when you are looking for the most specific type of quarterback that fits your vision for what a quarterback should be. And he went through the 3 other guys because they just really are his kind of guys. And then he's like, all right, well, we'll throw Dylan out there and see. And Dylan can run the offense. It was almost like, I don't want to make that comparison, but I'll make a comparison. It was early on in 2021. Dylan Gabriel was looking really good in this offense. And it was coming in, it was like, oh, well, he's not that kind of quarterback. Like, he's not really going to run the Gus offense. And he was running it really well. And that's kind of like what we saw a little bit of tonight, where it's like he could throw the ball and he could run when he had to.
Right.
And that's what I want out of my quarterback at this point. I don't want to keep doing the guy who looks at one receiver, he's not open, and he runs. I don't want that anymore, and I never really did want it.
What he did a good job of tonight, and you even saw it on the Hail Mary, was not just reading the field, not just going through progressions. He would feel pressure and evade it and keep his eyes downfield. And that's something we've actually really never seen
on the Hail Mary, right? He like spun out of
there was a guy about to light him up.
Yeah.
And he shakes him off, spins out of it, then resets, looks to the end zone and fires it. Yeah. That's what we've been missing. And honestly, it's funny because when I talk about how all the word on the street for like months has been, which isn't like there was even a big point of discussion. It was just like there was no point in talking about Rizk. He wasn't with the other quarterbacks. It's like, to this staff, is it like if they're not freak athletes who can run, that's just disqualifying? Like, is that really where that stems from? And I have to say he doesn't look like a super comfortable runner. He doesn't look like a natural athlete or a running back when he's running the ball like Jakari does. But that 30-yard run, it wasn't like the Red Sea part and he just bolted downfield. He was breaking dudes' ankles multiple times on his way down the field. It wasn't just some like, there was an opening. Like he knows that, and he pulled a couple times on some options and picked up yards that way. And he was towing the line of, no, he's never ever going to be a run first quarterback. That's fine. You don't need that to run an offense. I swear to God. But he did enough to open things up for RJ, and he did pull it often enough that it wasn't like Arizona could just discount that and key in on the back every single time they run that play.
Exactly, and that's what's been so frustrating to me is that why have we been in this mode where we need the quarterback to be that kind of runner when you have RJ Harvey, and you have the kind of backfield that you always have had? Like, it does never made sense to me, and so I don't know, seeing them go out there, and he converted like an early 3rd and 12 with a pass like over the middle of the field. And it was just kind of like, I don't know, some stuff I saw from this offense tonight that I have not seen, I don't know, since when. Like, I guess there were flashes of it with JRP and some with Timmy, but.
And we've only have one game of Rizk. Yeah. He might come out. I don't expect him to look this good against Arizona State for all the reasons that it's a road game. They have a game of tape on him to learn more about him. But you're right, the JRP never had that consistency.
And I think you said earlier, like, it's something more sustainable.
Yes.
Like it's okay, maybe he's not going to throw for almost 300 yards and 3 touchdowns and run for another 55, but this style of quarterback, you're going to give yourself a chance because you're going to, I mean, you have, and I guess we saw more out of the receivers tonight than we have all season. And I don't know, it's been kind of one of a chicken or the egg thing all season. It's like, oh, well, is the quarterback bad or are the receivers not getting separations? Probably a little bit of both. But
I don't know, when Jacoby Jones goes for 100 yards, you wonder if maybe the receivers weren't as bad as we thought.
5 catches, 106 yards, and a touchdown tonight. Randy Pittman, 5 catches, 80 yards, and 2 touchdowns, his first multi-touchdown game. Kobe Hudson, I mean, he only went 4 for 58, but still, I mean, he had a 36-yard catch.
Rizk just missed him. He got open in the end zone. That would have been.
There was another one, too. It was toward the end of the game. It really didn't matter at that point because I think he picked up a first down anyway by throwing it to Pittman. Mm-hmm. But there was that on that play. He kind of threw it into traffic and Pittman caught it. It was a really good throw. Okay. But Kobe Hudson was like wide open. He streaked over like right open the end zone. He kind of got frustrated a little bit, but then it was funny because I like Kobe a lot. As he's like, we're going back to the huddle, I think he's just still kind of like talking to the defender. He's like, I beat you. Like he literally pointed at the defender. But yeah, I mean, it was fun to watch this offense.
It was very fun.
It's just nice to say.
The other factor at play, apart from, that I don't want to discount things on, was, obviously no tape on Rizk. Arizona's very bad. The other factor at play here is, I think at this point, it is no longer a joke. And the space game, there's something there.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it. It's like guys, I get it. Like, it was funny when it was like the 4th game, and we're like, we always win. 8 games is not a coincidence. 8 years of this, where every time they do a space game, the other team is helpless. No matter what kind of season UCF's having, whether they're undefeated or on a 5-game losing streak, it's just like, no, sorry, it's the space game. So UCF's going to go off and be incredible.
That's the other thing, is that it's not only 8-0, it's 8-0, and their point differential is like plus 128 or something like that.
Yeah,
it's like they have not. The closest was 52-40 against Temple in 2018. And other than that, it has not been.
The combined score of the space game is 405 to 159 through 8 years.
Crazy.
The point differential coming into tonight was 28 something, and they pushed it to 30 something.
Yeah,
like it's freaking incredible, and it's so funny because like I said, my theory has long been that I just think that. I don't know. For me, and this is like a very loose theory, the space game is an event for UCF. It's one of those rare things where it's an event for one team, but not for another. Like, rivalry games are big for both teams. Like, bowl games are big for both teams. The space game is only, like, for whatever team UCF's playing, it's just another game on the schedule. For UCF, it's a big deal. We talked to 4 players in post-game. I believe 3 of them made comments along the lines of how they were feeling the pressure because they knew what a big deal it would be if they were the team to lose a space game. And, like, it is a different thing for UCF. And I was laughing because Gus was asked about the space game and why he thinks it's happening, and he said that he believes that they should do the space game every week from now on. That he's going to talk to Terry about that. He's obviously joking, but a good point. But he also gave kind of a real answer later, where he said that the space game is really special, and there is just an energy to it, and a different energy to the fan base. And I was laughing tonight because it's like, in pregame, I'm sitting there and I'm watching the stadium fill, and the stadium's freaking blue. Like, there was no black and gold. Well, there was black, but it was like there was no gold. It was just a black and blue stadium, and I'm like, this is getting crazier by the year. There were lots of specks of orange, many astronauts out in the stands. It's becoming like one of the cooler modern traditions of college football, and it's becoming very ingrained in UCF's DNA. And the team feels that. The administration feels that.
And I just had this thought right now. It's like, imagine, as good as it feels right now with all of that, imagine when and if UCF gets back to the point where, like, say they're ranked going into a space game, and it just has more exposure. Because like right now, people will be like, "Oh, like UCF's their space game. Oh, their uniforms are cool." But like, imagine it being like a huge game.
Like, this is like a future space game where it's like number 15 UCF versus like number 19 TCU or something.
Yeah,
like
something
that's
like
the
that.
Space game, and
yeah.
And honestly, it was and
it's on Fox or something like that.
Yeah.
Where it's...
And I was hearing this from other people, obviously, because I didn't watch the broadcast since we were at the game. But apparently, the broadcast was just going nuts for the space game. Like, they thought it was the coolest thing ever, and that's a trend. Every broadcast crew thinks it's amazing because it is amazing. It's freaking cool.
Yeah. It's just great. I mean, we can go to the defense a little bit in a second, but just RJ Harvey again. Like we mentioned, what the passing game did for him to be able to just kind of have it easier, I guess. And he's still just good. I mean, 22 carries, 184 yards, 3 touchdowns. I believe he became the second leading rusher all time.
Yep, he's only behind Kevin Smith now.
Yeah.
On the season, he's got 149 carries for. No, is this right? No, this isn't updated. This isn't updated. Yeah, so he's at like 1,200 yards on the year with 16 touchdowns, which is pretty good, guys. Over 7 yards a carry. He is so incredible, and I'm glad that hopefully the hard times are over of him having to generate every single yard on his own, because the defense knew that a run of some form was coming. Yeah. I can't overstate. It literally looked weird to me how like he would be 3 or 4 yards past the line of scrimmage before then having to figure out how to get past guys, when literally every game this season I had not realized until tonight we saw the opposite of, oh no, he basically did always have to immediately be fighting through like 9 guys, like over and over and over, and still was going for like 160 yards while doing that. So I bet he was thrilled tonight. And whatever comes for Rizk in the future, I don't think that, before we go to the defense, I don't think that it's like he's going to be going 20 for 25 every game. He's going to come down to earth next game, but he's a threat. Yeah. And that's going to make these last 3 games for Harvey a lot easier than they would have been with some of these other quarterbacks. One more quick thing on Rizk. Yeah. How funny is it going to be when UCF goes to a bowl, which against all odds is now a little bit on the table? They need to win 2 of these last 3. Is that right? Yeah. They need to win 2 of the last 3. We'll see. Arizona State and West Virginia on the road are going to be tough, but we'll see. How funny is it going to be when Dylan Rizk gets them to 6-6? They go to a bowl, they win the bowl. Malzahn's back next year, and he recruits over him this offseason. I said that, I think, before halftime. I'm not even joking. That is coming. That is how he will literally Mikey Keenan. I think it was the second quarter. I think it was the second quarter. I was grabbing food, and I saw Brian Peterson, and I told Brian, it's going to happen. Yeah. Like he'll play really well last 4 games, and they'll go to the portal and get a quarterback. Yep. Because I think it is so in Gus's DNA. I just don't believe he can actually have a season without a quarterback who goes for him. I don't think he can do it. And I can't wait. And I don't know if he's going to go in the offseason planning it, but it'll be like when guys are hitting the portal, he's going to be like, okay, yes, like Dylan Rizk led us to a bowl and looked really good and threw for 11 touchdowns to 2 interceptions while doing so. He did great, but my God, this cornerback from Missouri, I just can't believe how fast he is, and maybe he should be our quarterback.
What I need to happen this week, maybe tomorrow, maybe Monday, I need Tim Harris to walk up to Gus Malzahn, grab him by the shoulders, go like this to him, and say, hey, you know what balance is? We had it. 602 total yards, 294 passing yards, 308 rushing yards. UCF's offense had balance. I need him to just
effortless tonight when it was balanced. It looked absolutely effortless. And I understand Arizona's bad, and I'm not saying that they would have put up 56 points on everyone, but God, I think they could have put up like 35 points on a lot of these teams with a balanced offense, with Harvey not having to fight for his goddamn life every single time he touches the ball.
It's crazy.
Well, let's talk about the defense.
Yeah, let's do it.
I didn't mean to interrupt you if you had more to say.
No, I didn't really. I wanted to make that point about the balance because I'm looking at the stats here and I'm like,
yes,
294 and 308 is crazy. Not so much balance for Arizona. They threw for 256 and ran for 5 yards.
Great. Excellent.
Again, they've been really, really struggling on offense, which is kind of crazy. I thought Fafita was a great quarterback, and obviously they have McMillan, who is very good. But UCF, if you had told me, remember the run defense last year? Remember that? How bad it was?
Yeah.
If you had told me, hey,
I could have forgotten.
Next year at some point, I'm going to look at you and I'm going to tell you, UCF just allowed 5 rushing yards in a game. Like, that is crazy.
Probably would have been like against Sam Houston, right?
They were swarming. Like, they were all over the backfield. I don't know how many tackles for loss they had, but it was like Lee Hunter, Ricky Barber, all those guys like up front, and they stopped the run like crazy. They got after the quarterback more than they have been, and there was just nothing Arizona could really do. I mean, especially once UCF went up 21, 28-0, it was like, all right, the defense can kind of just pin their ears back and take care of business, and that's what they did.
So Ethan Barr said in post-game that when Addison Williams took over the defense this week, the first thing he told them all was that the problem is that someone on the field is making a mistake on every single play. And which is blunt, but what is happening?
Very believable.
He said that Addison Williams told them that what they need to figure out this week was, A, they needed to simplify things. They felt like things were too complex. They were trying to do much. And that the defense needed to get back to stop thinking in terms of series, in terms of drives. It needs to be, this is the play. You focus on that play, and then we reset. And it's funny because I know it's only been a week and you can only change so much with the defense. They were upfront about that. But I felt like you saw that tonight. There were multiple situations tonight where I'm expecting the mistake. Like the receiver catches a pass and I'm expecting a missed tackle, or I'm expecting a linebacker to be out of position, and it didn't really happen. Now, they didn't play mistake-free football. There were still pass interference calls, and it's not perfect. But, man, there were some plays tonight where it's like either the D-line and the linebackers get pressure and take out Fafita early, or they don't, and he's dancing around because everyone's covered and he has to throw it away, or they do eventually get to him. And I, like I said, I don't want to get away from the fact that they were playing some really good teams, and Arizona's not that. But they did just feel like they were playing better together as a unit tonight than we'd seen in past games.
They were getting pressure with 4 up front, but also Addison Williams was dialing up some of the blitz. Like I actually, and it was funny because maybe it's just something that I haven't seen from UCF a ton, is there was one particular third down where, I think it was 3rd and 6 maybe, and they have Deshaun Pace lined up on Ted Rowe and McMillan. And I'm like, I don't know if I like that matchup at all. I was like, that doesn't seem like the right matchup. And then snap happens, Pace is in the backfield. Like, it's either run a blitz, and he kind of just – I think Fafita just threw it into the ground because he was like, I'm going to get blown up here. And I was like, oh, that was great. I love that. I was like, I love that. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't feel like I've seen a lot of stuff like that from this defense. And so, I mean, one game and against a bad offense, obviously, but I was happy with Addison Williams tonight, and happy with just kind of the effort from a lot of Ricky Barber, a sack and a half, 2.5 tackles for loss. Lee Hunter had a half a tackle for loss. Same with Nigel Kelly, had a half a sack. Malachi Lawrence had 2 sacks. Like, they were just getting after the quarterback. I don't think Fafita was comfortable once, really.
Yep.
And it was just fun and nice to see for once, because I wasn't, watching the defense through my hands.
Yeah.
For like the first time maybe this year.
And I'm trying to take tonight for what it is, because I think there is a reality where they go drop these last 3. I'm not expecting that.
Yeah.
But I think there's still a reality where that happens. And I think that this was, thank God they broke the losing streak. Thank God they found their quarterback for the duration of this season, maybe next season. And now that was great. That was all great. Arizona State is the prove it to me game. Prove to me that this wasn't just space game magic and a quarterback that no one had tape on. Prove to me that you really did turn a corner.
Yeah.
And listen, I don't even know if that necessarily means beating Arizona State to me, but it's like if they go out on the road and just look lifeless again, and I don't know, like I'm even saying that out loud, I just don't necessarily expect it with Rizk because I just think he brings something different to the offense and he makes things easier for the other players around him. And we forgot to mention this earlier, they used Jakari really smartly tonight. Jakari was playing the role of Joey Gatewood or Parker Navarro, whoever, where obviously Rizk, they get into the red zone, or not even necessarily the red zone, but just right up by the goal line, and they have Jakari come in, and it was working perfectly because Jakari comes in, defense all keys in on Jakari, and he just hands off to Miles or whoever. Yeah. And they just take it in. The defense is like, oh, dang. And it was working very well. So I guess I almost am, I'm feeling good about where the offense is at. I really liked the way Tim Harris called plays. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a different offense, but it was an effective offense. I guess it's a prove it game to the defense more than anything. It showed me that wasn't just you were playing a team that can't function offense. Show me you have actually turned some kind of.
Yeah, a team with no discernible run game. And now you're going up against Arizona State, who has a very good running back. Yeah. And it is just a solid team. So yeah, I'm not ready to be back in on Gus by any means. I'm not
close to being
not even a little bit close. Not even
nothing about whoops. The fourth string guy was the only quarterback who can run the offense. As Matt had me feel like, no, I'm back in. Let's have him stay here till the 23rd.
I still legitimately want him gone, but tonight was fun. I'm glad that they're still undefeated in space games.
Yep.
I'm glad they won a game, and I'm not sitting here talking about a 6th straight loss
And because that would have been so bleak. And they're 4-5 now. I'm not ready to talk about a bowl game yet because road games to Arizona State and West Virginia are tough. But if they win at Arizona State, then it's time to talk about it.
Yeah, if they win at Arizona State, then it's a failure if you don't make it.
Yeah, you're 5-5. Just grab. I mean, it's honestly, it's so stupid. I mean, 2 weeks ago, I said on this podcast, they're done. There's no chance they could make a bowl. And somehow for the second year in a row, they're like, but maybe.
What if I do the same thing I did last year?
Hey, and if they do make a bowl and Gus sticks around and everything, let's try a thing next year where they don't lose 5 games in a row. Let's for the first time in Big 12 history not lose 5 games in a row while having a Big 12 season. Can they try that? Can that be an option? So
I'm gonna throw another thing in there. Don't lose 4 or 3 in a row. I'd rather that not happen. Back-to-back losses happen.
I understand.
3 and 4 game losing streaks are crazy. Also,
I understand losing streaks happen. I'm not saying that I'm expecting them in 2025 to come back and freaking win 10 games or anything crazy, but oh my God, just stop losing 5 games in a row.
Stop going a month and a half without letting us see a win.
Stop doing it. It should not be that hard to not lose 5. It's like, it's so they're like, we've established we're about a 6-6 team. We just have to do all the losses at once. Who does that? Why are they doing that?
I don't know, but I'm really sad we only have 3 more games of RJ Harvey.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that tonight in the second half when he's running because he is so freaking fun. Just so fun. Yeah. And he's been these have been dark times this year. Last year was bad, but it was more like building. This year's been really dark and really awful. And has literally quite straight up been the bright, shining light for the fandom. And I'm so grateful to him for that and the memories he's provided UCF fans. And I'm hopeful that, I'm sorry. I just opened up a tab on my computer while we were talking, confused the hell out of Bailey. Didn't mean to do that, but I'm hopeful that they can send him out with another bowl appearance. That's the what?
I feel that, but I also feel like he wouldn't play in the bowl. He might not play in the bowl, so it's like.
And if he doesn't, fine. But I want that senior day win for him. I don't want his career to end with they didn't meet their goals, which they meet their goals either way. But you know what I mean. Whether he plays in the bowl or not, I want that.
I prefer his career to not end. Even if they they lose the next 2 and then they're 4-7.
Yeah.
Going into the Utah game. I want them to win that Utah game, even if they finish 5-7, just because I want to. I don't want it to be RJ Harvey ran for 212 yards and UCF lost 31-16.
But I think a legacy for Harvey is because obviously he never got to have the team was just never good enough around him for them to have a super elite season while he was here. But if the legacy can be Harvey kept them afloat as they spent a month trying to figure out who the quarterback was, and they got to a bowl. That's a solid. That speaks a lot to what he had around them. So.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the uniforms now?
We can.
Can we talk about the uniforms? Yep. I'm so thrilled that they won, so no one will pretend these were bad because, wow, were they good. I really liked this year's set, and like I said, I don't always want to weigh in a ton until we've actually seen them on the field. What was interesting about these is that, especially seeing them out there, they're not as overtly flashy as some past uniforms we've seen from UCF, right? The all blues last year were meant to be an in-your-face, headline-grabbing flashier, like the moon helmet. What was different about this set was just how straight up sharp they were. It was just a good, fun to watch, fun to look at set. They look fast wearing these uniforms. The moon gradient came across well. The one glitch on it that I didn't think about was like so many players untuck their undershirts that it kind of cut the transition from the pants up to the gradient. But just the jerseys themselves were so good
when they first came out.
Yeah, and I one thing I didn't really key in on enough when we were looking at them when they initially came out was I loved the font on these, and I liked them when I saw them, but they just really popped on the field and. Everything about the look was sharp. It was the perfect amount of black and blue and white and gray, but none of those really being overbearing for the others. It was just a good freaking uniform. Yeah. It's one I'm going to look back on fondly. And it was just nice to see UCF in gray again. We've missed him in gray.
I had that thought earlier, and I think I just realized why is that when they do the Space Game uniform reveals, you don't get to really see what the players' names are going to look like on the back, do you?
Yeah,
because they don't do. So that's why I think seeing them. When they put the locker room photo up earlier, I was like, "Oh, that looks really it looks even cooler with the name on it." Because usually you just get the front and maybe you get the back, but it's a blank nameplate. So yeah, I really like them.
Just those numbers, the white numbers with the blue back. I don't know if you call that a fade or whatever on them. They were just good freaking uniforms.
I love the space color. Like I just love Canaveral blue. I love the black and all that, and seeing the pewter, the moon dust, all that stuff. Like
I want them to keep doing crazy things because I understand why you don't just do black uniforms every year, but like black with the blue trim just hits. Like the black jerseys always freaking hit. I think is this the best black? Because we now have 3 black space jerseys, 2018, 2022, and 2024. I think this might be recency bias because I just saw them on the field. This might be my favorite right now.
This one's still my favorite, 2018.
The one you're wearing right now. I will say the reflective numbers on that one are super, super strong. For some reason, I'm in love with the numbers on these uniforms. And honestly, the moon dust up the sides is just such a cool touch.
I think it's just because part of the reason I like this, I like the sleeves a lot, but I also, like the reflective numbers, but also just the fact that it's like, I just love this color.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's what it is. Just like getting to see the color on there is nice. I don't know. It was a great time.
Good uniforms. Very happy.
Space Games. It was nice. I got to see a bunch of people I've met through this podcast, through Twitter, through all that stuff. It was great. Got to meet the famous JP Gilbert.
That's right.
Even more handsome in person, true ball knower. And I'm not just saying that because he paid for my drinks throughout the game. And supplied me with my alcohol. He's a great guy. It was fun seeing JP. I actually want to shout out to Dolly Drama on Twitter. He said before the game when I first saw him, he's like, I'm feeling the good vibes today. I was like, yeah, he's feeling a win. He goes, I'm kind of feeling a blowout. Ooh. And I was like, really? I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to go that far, but I was like, and it's so yeah.
All right, okay, like. Good call, Dolly, but also like, wow, feeling a blowout for the space game. Like,
what I predicted the other day, I said 30. I guess what we'll do from now on is it's like, I'm just going to keep predicting. I'll predict wins in space games, and I'll predict a giant score.
I don't know who the opponent is going to be for the space game next year, or who the quarterback or coach will be, but
every other Big 12 team is praying it's not.
I'm predicting 45-10 as the score for the space game next year, so you can lock that in now. Yeah, I can't. This is now 2 of the 15 teams in the Big 12 have learned space game in a very bad way. And Arizona fans on Twitter, I started to feel bad towards the end because they were like, "What the hell is happening to us?" And they were kind of in real time learning the space game lore, and we're like, "Oh,
it's what happened to Oklahoma State last year." Like. And then Oklahoma State fans spent all offseason talking about it. And then I think one of the Oklahoma State accounts was tweeting today and was like, oh, I see Arizona's getting their fill in of the space game. And it really is. It's a thing. They're 8-0 and they just demolish everyone.
It's gone from being a joke to just, it is absolutely straight up a thing. Like, I don't know what you can, the funniest thing UCF can do is make it Oklahoma State again next year because they do come back to the bounce house.
Yeah, no, that would be good.
But Houston also comes to the bounce house next year, and if that works in where it is in the schedule, if it's like around early November, that's kind of a layup choice because obviously the space game connections. Maybe you try to get Houston to play along or something.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know.
UCF won a game.
Nice, man.
It's been 49 days. I've 49 nights, sleepless nights, thinking about when will UCF win again, and we're finally past it.
Yeah, man, it's a relief. It is more than anything just a relief.
Can I drop a hypothetical situation on you that I want to be clear? I don't believe this in any way, shape, or form.
Sure.
I don't believe this. Okay? I don't believe it.
Do you believe it?
No, I actually don't. It's just funny to me because it'd be funny to talk about. Because it could technically happen. Say that UCF wins out, as Dylan Rizk claimed they were going to do in postgame. UCF wins out, wins the bowl, and finishes 8-5. How do we even remotely go about characterizing that season?
I don't know.
An 8-win season.
We said 8-4 at the beginning of the year.
Like 8-5. Like I said, that's not going to happen. They're going to lose to Arizona State. But it's like I like the hypothetical of that's technically possible right now, and I don't even know how you would go about
That's what we did last year.
describing anything.
We were like, just make a bowl game, win 6 games, that'd be great. And then they did it, but they got to it in a stupid way. And it was like, this was a miserable season.
The day of the bowl game, the fan base had never been happier because Harvey was coming back and Javon Baker was coming back and Kobe was coming back. All those announcements hit.
Yeah.
I don't think Kobe had announced it actually, but it was in, people knew that was
Smoke
coming.
was
And it was
there,
like they just locked up the biggest recruiting class ever. All those guys were definitely going to play the next year. And it was just, people were in a super good mood. And then they went and lost the game and everyone was like, maybe we should burn down UCF athletics. And Gus was like, I agree, and started firing people. So just bowl games, they're not supposed to matter, but boy, do they sometimes.
Yeah, but I don't know. It was fun. Glad it happened. Really good to see Dylan Rizk play well. Really good to see RJ Harvey keeping RJ Harvey. Gus has still got to go. It's been real fun, but we will be back. Anything else before we get out of here?
No.
All right. Yeah. We'll be back with episode 239. Until then, you can find us on Twitter at BaileyJAdams22, at by CA Simmons, at Night Sports Now, and at Pegasus Podcast. Thank you guys so much for being with us. We will talk to you soon.
Bye, everybody.